how do we keep trainers amazing? How do we keep them active? And when I say active, but how do we keep them active in growing their personal training business? Hey, welcome back, team. It's Richard here from the Marketing Muscle podcast show. First-time listeners, I purchased a fitness studio at 17 and a half years old. My plan was hard work, get an A-frame sign, and a little bit of hope marketing. Well, I should say a lot of hope marketing. I ran that for 2 years. It was successful. I paid my parents back every penny that they loaned me on their home overdraft. And I now spend all my time with health and fitness and wellness owners, how to become their own version of marketing ninjas in their business. As I didn't have the time to hire an agency, I didn't have the money to hire an agency. So I wanted to go out and do it myself as a small business owner. And in this show here, we debunk and teach you the best ways to grow your health, fitness, and wellness location. If it's outdoors, indoors, leisure centers, gyms. We've worked with all locations of all different sizes over the 10 years of comm marketing has been around for. And I also give you the real insights of what's happening at the moment in the fitness industry. Now, talking about that, I was on a panel at the Fitness and Wellness Australia show. That was a brand new fitness show, just launched. It's had a mixture of education and trade show in. If anybody was there, it was in Sydney in June. And I was hosting two panels. And one of the panels that I was on was called Building a $1 million Personal Training Business in Your Facility. And I'll say that again, building a $1 million personal training business in your facility. Now, you know, the $1 million mark, it's always that mark that people want to get to, that we use in marketing, that it's like, oh, the magic $1 million. How do we get to that? And I also had some amazing panelists on the panel. And so I created the questions and I wanted to really drill them on what it takes to do that. So I had Michael Cunico. He's at the moment general manager of fitness innovation, Viva Leisure. He's also been many years in Fitness First gyms as the regional manager and personal training manager there across all the locations. So great insight of what's been happening. Jeff Osborne, he's the performance manager at F45 Training. He's also owned his own Vision personal training facility in the Gold Coast. And so he had two different versions as well on that. And Tani Donkin, and she's the regional personal training manager of the fitness and lifestyle group, which is also Good Life as part of that. And really great insights, great people. Connected first time with Tani and Jeff. I've known Michael for a while. And I wanted to understand the differences and their opinions on how to get to $1 million and if it is even possible to get to $1 million in your personal training business. Now, we did a pre-call before the panel a couple of days before, and the biggest thing that came out of that, the first thing, Michael said, is it even possible to get to $1 million in one facility? And Richard, are we talking about gross or are we talking about profit? Gross revenue or profit? And first of all, it was gross revenue because we all agreed that in one facility, getting $1 million of profit it may be impossible or very hard to it. And we haven't come across that in one facility doing the $1 million as personal training. So we had to actually break down what is personal training. You see, Jeff, who manages all the F45 trainings, 400 of them, they run a studio model. As you know, there's no personal training done in F45. And so it's a studio model. So in that case there, you can think of as $1 million of personal training in your studio, group training, we should say, not personal training, the one-on-one, the traditional sense. And then it was between Michael and Tani to kind of like battle over, well, can we do this even in our locations? And how many sessions would we need to have done? And if we did all those sessions, how do we retain the amount of trainers that we need to do so? And so it was really interesting insights, because when you think about your business and you think about where you want to get to in the personal training side of the business, what are you at the moment? What revenue are you turning over at the moment? Now, you may be up 400,000, you might be at 800,000, you might be at, 300,000, whatever number you're at. I want you to break down and think about in the personal training component. So, and again, Michael mentioned that, well, if he was to do it his way to get to the $1 million as fast as possible, and I said, if I had a gun to your head, how would you do it? He struggled to give me the straight line answer on that. But at the end of the day, it sort of came out with like 300 plus sessions using around 14, 15 different trainers. And they would always have to be, pretty full to achieve that. So it was a mix between small group training and some personal training to get to that number, and to get to that number the fastest way, because otherwise there'd be a lot of trainers that we would need and to manage that, payroll, HR, to achieve that. And so that's what his version came up with. And I also asked the question of, how long is it going to take to get to that $1 million mark in your business? And again, that was very hard to answer. Jeff answered that, and as a group facility, which obviously is probably a lot easier to answer that. And their model is, they go from 0 to 2 to 250 as fast as possible using a series of paid ads and a lot of brand equity. There was a question asked, do you get to 250 members straight away off the bat? And he said pretty much not at this point. However, that's the aim. And they use paid Facebook ads to do that. They use paid marketing to do that. And as I said, a lot of brand equity as well. The other question I wanted to put to everybody, which I did, was, how does brand fit with all this? Because, running big locations like Good Life, Viva Leisure, F45, these are all established brands. So what happens when you get your brand and it's not that established? When I say it could be established in the area, but it's not that established to say, okay, you're bringing brand equity to the table and all of a sudden they're coming to you. So it's like seeing Nikes on sale and they're coming to purchase the Nikes. And I think everybody agreed upon that, yes, brand equity is important. However, if you are, running that model, it is a big part about the trainer, the business owner, and the smarts that they have to get to that point. And I thought that was really interesting because, yes, they said brand is important. However, it does come down to having a really good trainers wanting to grow the business. And so then it came and talked about, well, how do we keep trainers amazing? How do we keep them active? And when I say active, but how do we keep them active in growing their personal training business? And this is referring to anybody who, is a PT in a larger gym. And the big question here is having a great PT manager that's going to lead them, grow them, nurture them, train them to be the best version of themselves. And a big part of it came down to that is having a great personal training manager to lead your team. So kind of a reminder that if you are wanting to get to that $1 million mark in personal training, it really does come down to ensuring that you have a great kind of mentor that can lead your trainers, some great training around them. So don't kind of fall into the trap that that's not required. That's definitely required to get to that point that you need to get to. Tani made some amazing points around, how to become, how to be the best version of yourself as a personal trainer, continual learning, continual growth. That was really important. And that's a big part that she does as well. So I'll try to get her also on the podcast too. We can break down that a little bit more detail. But, right now, I just want you to think about, how many sessions are you doing at the moment? How many trainers do you have at the moment? And you might do a calculation to go, okay, based on this scenario of what I'm doing at the moment, how many sessions, how many trainers would I need? What would that look like to get to the $1 million mark? Because sometimes we have this vision of let's get to $1 million, but then when we work out the numbers, we may have to adjust the model to get there, or we may have to open another location to get there. And that was a big agreement that that kind of all agreed on, that you may not be able to do it in one location. The perfect scenario might be 2 to 3 locations, and to split that $1 million personal training business in all locations. Now, remember, we're not talking about gym memberships here. We're talking about personal training memberships. So if you are a gym and you want to put personal training memberships in it, you may need multiple facilities to do that. That was the agreement for the panel. And if you are a studio, and that wants to get to that $1 million mark, that is on the high end of where other studios are at as well. So if that's something that you're on the cusp edge of that, you just really want to get tight in your pricing points, what you're charging, how many sessions are available to come to, and then work back and go, okay, what does that $1 million look like on my model? But overall, again, it wasn't splitting up multiple models. It was doing the one model and really going with it and making it work. So work those numbers out in your business. How many sessions you need? How many trainers? What's your hourly rate? What's the average hourly rate if you're doing a small group training? And then you can break down and go, what does it require to make that $1 million personal training business in one facility? As I said, it might be 1, 2, or 3. The panel said they'd probably need 2 to 3 locations to make that happen. So just some insights on my panel. How to build a 1 million personal training business in your facility. And I guess ensuring that you know what your model is by far the most important thing to do. And if you don't like where your model is getting to, or you're struggling to figure out how to get to that model, that is a really good question to ask. And that's the next best question you can ask. I think it's really important to have conversations like this, to go, is it possible? How do I get there? What do I do? And then start working on that. As I said, these are 3 great panelists: Michael Hunico, Jeff Osborne, Tani Donkin. I'll make sure I get them all on the podcast. You can really listen to them in more detail about what their model is. Team, I hope that's helped you to get you a bit of an insight of how to get to that $1 million personal training business in your facility. It is going to require great operators to do that. It's going to require great leaders as personal trainer managers, and it is going to require bringing up your B games to A game trainers, and to have a model that charges the correct amount to get you there. So again, just look at your numbers and seeing what you need to do that. You'll need to make adjustments to do that possibly, and that's okay. Once you know your goal, it's easier to get there. So I hope that helps. That was brought to you by the Fitness and Wellness Australia show, and you can find out more about that. I had Sean Krenz on the podcast here a few months ago, and you can check out his episode about what it is and what all that was. It was a great show, a lot of success, and that will be on next year. You can come and visit that every year that we're running. Now, team, if you want help with your marketing, something you're thinking about, not sure where to go, jump on our website, commarketing.com.au. This show is brought to you by Com Marketing. Our team do all the editing of this podcast and get it out to you guys. And we do it for free. And the reason why we do that is because we want to help more people to become marketing ninjas. We want to help more people to take their teams to be sharper and better marketers. And when we can do that, we can hit the $1 million marks. We can make it happen. So guys, just jump on to commarketing.com.au and book a marketing muscle up call. And that's what it's called. It's called a marketing muscle up call. It takes about 15 minutes, and we'll take you the next steps and tell you what's working in your digital marketing, what may be holding you back, and then an action plan to get you to the next steps. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you next time on the show. Bye for now.